What's up, BookTube? Sandy back here with another video, and in this video I'm going to start something that I hope will continue on a weekly basis, and that is my weekly reading wrap-up video. And this is something that I'm actually really excited about, and I'm going to tell you why next. Okay, so one of the reasons that I want to do these weekly reading wrap-up videos is because I want to give myself a little extra incentive to stay on top of my reading and to spend less time sort of mindlessly and endlessly scrolling through my Facebook feed, my Twitter feed, and my Instagram feed. Now, there's not to say that those are totally bad, but in excess, they can be. So I want to give myself every opportunity to cut down on that activity and increase my reading productivity as well as my writing productivity. And so I'm hoping that this will be an opportunity for me to produce hopefully interesting content that you guys will enjoy, and at the same time get me on a better track toward better habits, more productive habits that will hopefully be beneficial. So quickly to wrap up my reading for the week, and to tell you not only what I have read, but what I am currently reading and maybe what I will get to by the end of the week, I do want to issue a reminder that I will be saving more in-depth reviews of the books that I read for the end of the month wrap-up video, which will continue as I will again wrap up the month, and I will also, of course, set the stage for next month with my TBR. In this case, it'll be for March of 2021. So with that, let me jump into my first book that I read this month. The first book that I read this month is Real Life by Brandon Taylor. And this is a book that I was particularly excited about because it has to do with being Black and LGBTQ+ in a predominantly white academic environment. And so I thought that those would be some interesting topics that would help shape this book, and so I was excited about it. I first saw this book several months ago, and I was meaning to pick it up, and I didn't pick it up, and I kind of talked myself out of it, but then I finally decided to pull the trigger on it. I think I probably got it pretty cheap as a Kindle book, and that might have been one of the reasons that I eventually decided to pick it up. So I'm looking forward to telling you a little bit more about this book at the end of the month. I will say that this book was it was interesting in a lot of ways that I expected it to be. It was flawed in some ways that I found a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, it was definitely a read that I was excited about going in, and I feel pretty good about coming out. Next up on my list is The Black Friend on Being a Better White Person by Frederick Joseph. And this is a book that I talked about in my TBR, and I'm actually really excited about this book. This book not only talks about being the black friend, but actually in some ways similar to the other book that I've read so far, Real Life. It talks about being black in a predominantly white environment, and sometimes the role that people who are black in a predominantly white environment have to take on, and how that role can be particularly uncomfortable, whether people that are trying to put you in that role realize it or not, and whether sometimes you realize it or not when you find yourself in a position of having to enter that role, whether it's because you really want to or because you feel that you have to, and the burden that comes with it. So I'm really excited about this book. I'm pretty early in it so far. I'm about 32 pages into it, and nonfiction books I tend to read very fast, so I don't anticipate it being a problem for me to knock this out. It's just going to be a matter of me basically devoting some time to it. And since I got done with my first book, I need to get on a roll here because I'm reading about 3 or 4 books at the same time, as you will see as I continue this video. So I'm excited about this. So far, so good. I am doing quite a bit of annotating in this book, so the highlighter has definitely been out and been active as I've been going through this book, because there's some definite interesting content in this book that I definitely want to make sure that I keep track of for later if I want to use it as a reference. Next up, I'm back on the Stephen King train, and in this one, I am reading a book that I have been excited and looking forward to reading for a very long time, and that is The Shining. So I'm going back old school Stephen King here with a book that I've been really excited to read for a long time. I have seen the movie before, but I've heard that the book is pretty good. It is a very long book. It is 400 plus pages. With relatively small writing on the inside, so it's probably almost like a 600. It's almost like a 600-page book because of how long it is. But the good news is that I'm really excited about this book. It starts off really strong. I'm only about 30-some pages into it, and yet I really feel like I'm there. You can feel where this book is kind of going, and so I'm excited about this. Again, I've seen the movie, so I'm familiar with the story, and that might help me a little bit in case I need to maybe skim some parts that I don't necessarily need to spend a whole lot of time on to be able to get through this book. So I'm excited about this. Old school Stephen King, The Shining. I've generally heard nothing but positives about Stephen King's The Shining. So don't disappoint me, because I have really high hopes, really high expectations, and I would hate for them to be shattered. Don't do it to me, Shining. Please don't do it. And lastly, right now for the week, I am reading Elantris by Brandon Sanderson, and this happens to be my first Brandon Sanderson book, and I'm really excited about this one. It starts off really well. I'm just a handful of pages into it so far. Basically the first chapter, I'm into it. So I'm excited about this. Brandon Sanderson is a little bit of a departure from what I typically read, but I am really excited about jumping into a different genre of writing and reading than what I normally would read. So I'm excited about this. As you remember, if you've been following this channel, I started reading Sarah J. Maas at the end of the month of December, even the end of 2020. So I was excited about jumping into Sarah J. Maas, and so that was a really good one. That was one that I was really excited about getting into, A Court of Thorn and Roses. I heard some pretty good things about it. I've heard that she has some other series, or at least one other series that's better than A Court of Thorn and Roses, but I was excited to jump in, and I was not disappointed. I really liked that book. Grabbed me right off the bat, and so far I'm feeling that with Elantris as well. I do feel like it kind of got a hook into me pretty early, and now what I need to do is really just kind of focus in. I've had a lot of stuff going on with work, so I haven't been reading as much as I need to, but I want to get back into more reading and more writing, because I have a lot of goals, not just from the reading standpoint, but also from the writing standpoint for the year 2021. So lots of goals that I want to get done, that I want to get accomplished, and the only thing that's in the way of it is me focusing my efforts and really trying to get rid of the distractions and really focus on productivity with my reading and my writing. So that's going to do it for my weekly reading wrap up, my first weekly reading wrap up. And as you know, you never forget your first time. So this is really exciting for me. I'm looking forward to continuing doing this in the weeks and months to come throughout 2021. So I hope you will stay with me on this journey as we go through BookTube, AuthorTube, and so much more right here